G'day everybody, it's Master Yoda here. Hope you guys are all doing well. Title of today's video, it's another reaction video. It's a reaction video to a PO video on how to pick up young women as a much older man. It's made by Alex Playing with Fire, or as in the BP and Incore community, we call him Alex Playing with Himself. So I'll let the video run and pause it and give my commentary. So without further ado, let's go.
Younger women are attracted to older men way more than they care to admit. How?
Bullshit. Okay, now this has got to be a gold digger, right? And there's no way this young lady's going to be attracted to this, but he's old enough to be a dad, probably her grandfather. No, she's either a gold digger or an escort. No, let me assure you, yeah, young women are not attracted to men that are much older than them. Look, maybe if he's an old Chad or an old Giga Chad, but even then, there's a ceiling as to the type of women those guys can pick up. I mean, say for example, you're a 50-year-old Chad or 50-year-old former Giga Chad. Yeah, you might attract a 30-year-old or a 35-year-old, but you're not going to be picking up young hot 20-year-olds. No, that's simply not going to happen. If you go on a lot of manosphere channels, particularly the PUA ones, they say, oh, when you're a man, you hit your prime when you're 40, because usually by that time you're more financially secure, more financially established, and young women are going to be attracted to that. That's bullshit. Look, generally speaking, women are mostly attracted to men their own ages. So if they're a young woman, they're going to be attracted to men who are of a similar age, like young men of a similar age, or a couple of years younger or older, give or take. But they're not going to be attracted to a much older man. No way. And if they are, it's only because he's rich and she's a gold digger. So yeah, let's see what the rest of this pickup artist or rejection artist has to say.
However, older guys ruin almost every single opportunity they get, especially when the girl asks them, so how old are you? And the crazy part, this has nothing to do with your actual age. It's just about avoiding the 5 common mistakes that older men are always making when talking to younger women. So whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or even 60s, if you can avoid these mistakes that I'm about to go through, you're going to come off as the confident, dominant older guy that she...
Give me a break. As if these women are attracted to these old farts. Give me a break. Unless there's a lot of money involved. Generally speaking, younger women find older women. Generally speaking, younger women find older men as gross. I mean, they're old enough to be their dads or even their grandfathers. PUAs give the worst advice. If you want to get advice on how not to get laid, listen to a pickup artist, or what they really should be called is a rejection artist. And I must thank one of my subs, Big TV 82, for that term. He came up with that. He calls them rejection artists. That's what they are. They're not PUAs. They're not pickup artists. They're rejection artists. Because if you listen to what these clowns say, you'll just get nothing but rejection. Yeah, let's carry on.
Secretly hoping that you are. Mistake number 1, making the age gap a big deal. So if you're talking to younger women and deep down inside you believe that, oh my God, I'm so much older than her, this is a little creepy, people...
Of course it's bloody creepy. If you're an older man and you're trying to hit on a woman that's young enough to be your daughter or even your granddaughter, of course it's creepy. But I mean, then again, these PUAs, PUAs are pretty creepy people. I mean, especially Alex Playing with Himself, with his crooked nose and his fucked up teeth, and yeah, he's a pretty creepy looking dude. A lot of these PUAs are pretty creepy. But yeah, of course the age gap is creepy. I mean, speaking for myself, I've always had a thing for older women, and about 30 odd years ago, I made the decision to start seeing mature age ladies instead of young ones, because obviously older women are better in bed and they treat you better. But also, to even now, I'm 57 years old now. Even if I could afford it, I would not pay a young lady the night. It's just creepy. It's awkward, and a lot of them will refuse to see you anyway. If you go on the websites where the independent hookers or ladies at night advertise, a lot of the young women do stipulate, I will not see clients over 40 years old or 45 or 50 years old. That's fair enough. And I can totally respect that. Totally respect that. And even if they did, even if they were willing to see older men, it's just going to be creepy and awkward. I mean, that's why I put a 10-year limit. If the hooker's 10 years, more than 10 years younger than me, no, I don't want to see her. You know what I mean? So I prefer older women because the reason why I don't want to see younger girls is, well, first they give you a shit service, but not only that, it's just creepy. It really is creepy. But what this PUA or Alex playing with himself is pushing, it is creepy. The age gap is a big deal because it is creepy.
I think I'm her dad, right? She's going to be able to easily pick up on that through some communications, and then she.
Oh, bullshit. She got to see that just by looking at you. God, this guy's a goose. And this guy charges money to give this, to dispense this awful dating advice. As you know, as per the 48 Laws of Dating written by Richard Wallace, never trust a dating coach. And he's totally right.
He's going to start thinking it's a big deal. So if you want to date younger women, you have to at your core believe that this is no big deal. Who gives a shit that I'm 30, 20, 15 years older than her, because age is just a number. Also, never defend your age. So a lot of guys get nervous when they're asked by younger women how old they are. So they're like, I'm 42, but people say I look younger for my age. Fail, right? Girl asks you your age, just answer the question. Be like, yeah, I'm 42. How about you? Easy, right? Simple. That's how you respond to that. Now, if a girl challenges you on your age and she's like, oh, you're a little on the older side, I don't usually date guys that old.
Because they don't. Younger women very rarely date men who are much older than God, in the 57 years that I've been on this earth, I can only recall on 3 occasions where a much younger woman was dating a much older man. I can tell you I can't even remember the years when I witnessed it. First time was in 1989. I was going for a drive. I was bored one night and I was going for a drive. I was driving alone in cars, like Richard Coper. And I was driving I came up to an intersection and the lights are red, so I came to a stop. And on the other side of the road, there was an old guy who was driving an immaculate Ferrari 308 GTB. I'm not sure what year it was. I think looking at maybe late 70s, early 80s Ferrari, but it was immaculate. It was spotless. This guy was a pretty old dude, must have been 60s plus. In the passenger seat was a young, hot-looking woman. Now, what do you think that woman was? Why that woman was in that car? I mean, Ferraris aren't cheap, so that guy must have had a bit of money. So that's The other occasion, I used to work for an airline, I used to work for an airline, and in the finance area, and one of my colleagues showed me a picture of his wife. This colleague of mine, he would have been, it would have been his late 40s, 50s. And his wife, I said, geez, is that your daughter? And he goes, no, it's my wife. She looks young. And the only other occasion, there was here in my state, here in New South Wales, here in Australia, there was a big scandal broke out. There was a teacher. This guy would have been in his late 40s, early 50s, and he was dating one of his students. Ended up having a relationship together. Even after she left school, I don't know if they're still dating or they're married or what happened, but but that's the only 3 times I've witnessed that. It's you very rarely see a much older man with a much younger man. It does. I mean, it happens sometimes. I think one of the probably a classic example of that is that there was a lady, I think she was a stripper or something, and Nicole Smith. She was dating some old fart, and then eventually he died. I mean, he was quite old. And and there was an extreme gap in age. I think she was in her 20s. He was in his 80s. But that's rare. It's exceptionally rare, unless you're an older Chad, or an older Giga Chad. Yeah, you might have a chance with younger women, but generally speaking, most older guys, young women find them repulsive. So.
You just treat it like a shit test. Again, a lot of guys start getting defensive or they try to logically explain why it's better dating.
Shit tests don't exist. This is one thing. This one ridiculous thing PUAs push out. If a woman's giving you a shit test, it's basically her way of telling you to get lost. Women don't shit test men they're generally attracted to. And think about it logically. If a woman gives a guy what the PUAs call a shit test, the bloke, the guy, assuming he knows how to read body language and social cues, he's going to take that as, oh, hang on a minute, this woman doesn't like me, she wants me to go away, so I'll go away. Why would a woman do that to someone she's attracted to? No, these so-called shit tests are just another autistic teaching that the PUAs push out. That's why I call PUA picking up autism, because that's what it teaches you, autism.
An older guy, that's not how you handle it. You just respond with humor. You'd be like, yeah, I know, you're so young. You probably never even had your first sip of beer, right? Responding with some humor. And then she's going to be like, no, I've had beer. And suddenly you frame the whole conversation into her being too young rather than you being too old. And you can really just frame anything to be good or bad. For example, when I was in my early 20s, I had a MILF phase where I was going for girls in their late 30s, 40s, and some of those MILFs are just fucking hot. And so a lot of times they would say, you're too young for me. My son is your age, right? And I was really good at reframing that. I'd be like, yeah, look, if you want like an old geezer who needs to take 10 Cialises to get it up, then I don't think I'm your man, you know? I know you don't want a young, vigorous guy. You want some old geezer who's probably decrepit and shit. And right, and the girl will be like, no, I don't want that, right? And bam, now she's on the back foot. And if you're going...
He's pushing pickup lines here. They don't work, guys. They don't work. Oh, God.
Going for younger women as an older guy, you can do the same exact thing. You can rephrase it and reframe things. So for example, you can say something like, yeah, listen, if you want some 18-year-old boy who's some Gen Z faggot who's going to be on his phone all day, then I guess I'm not your man, right? And again, then she's going to be on the back foot. And that's the power of framing. Mistake number 2, playing by the...
Sorry, guys, there's a delay in the StreamYard here. I'll see if I can correct it.
to do the 3-date rule thing, then you're actually putting yourself at a big disadvantage, because the ultimate form of investment for a girl is sex. So if you want to see the girl for a second or third date, the best thing you can do is sleep with her as fast as possible without coming off as pushy or creepy.
She's only going to sleep with you straight away if she finds you really physically attractive. Look, we don't live in a dating culture anymore. I mean, some dating still goes. We live in a hookup culture now, and it's all based on looks and whether a woman finds you physically attractive enough. All this courtship and taking out to dinners and all this crap, all this courtship stuff. It's dead and buried now. But I mean, look, some dating still does go on, but for the most part, we live in a hookup culture now. If one wants to sleep, she'll sleep with you straight away. You know what I mean? You won't have to take her out on expensive dinner dates and other crap like that.
Also, another important thing is flaking now is a big thing, right? 20 years ago, you know, when a girl told you she was going to show up Friday at 8 p.m., most likely she was going to show up. Now that's no longer the case, unfortunately. So you have to adjust for that. And there's multiple things you can do here. The first is you can multi-stack dates. So you can set up a date at 6 p.m., set up a date at 8 p.m., set up a date at 10 p.m., right? And then this way, if the 6 p.m. girl flakes, you still have the 8 p.m. girl, right? Or if the 6 p.m. girl shows up, right, you go on the date, and if it's not going well, you just bounce and then you meet up with the 8 p.m. girl and so on, right? Another thing you can do is just very straightforward, is you want to plan, stack the logistics so that you don't wind up wasting time. So what I do is I don't leave my house, because I tell the girl to meet me at a bar nearby. I don't leave my house until the girl texts me that she's on the way. And during that time, I'm just doing work or I'm doing something fun or I have other plans. So if she flakes or she doesn't show up, I didn't really waste any time, right? I'm not...
Sorry to pause the video again, but if you want to get multiple dates, well, obviously those women have to find you attractive, and then they're going to have to give you their contact information, right? You know, I can see what Alex playing with himself is stating here. don't put all your eggs in one basket. Oh, I suppose, yeah. But in order to go on multiple dates, you have to find women, multiple groups of women who find you attractive. What if you're an unattractive guy? Unattractive guy, you're not going to get those women contact details to begin with. Yeah, anyway.
Going to meet her halfway. I'm not going to go to a bar near her place, right? Because those are all scenarios where I could very easily waste my time. Mistake number 3, looking old. It doesn't really matter what your actual age is, it matters what it looks like your age is. So obviously some people look a lot older than their age. Like there's guys in their 30s who look like they're in their 40s and 50s, and some of them look like they're in their 20s. You generally want to be the latter, right? And let me show you guys some visual examples to really drive this point home. So take a look at the photo on the left. This is a famous actor named Adam Brody, most notorious for this gay-lo TV show called The OC, which for some reason I used to watch when I was in high school, right? And let's take a look at the actor on the right. His name is John Candy, appropriately named. And so guess which one of them is older? If you guessed it was the guy that looks like Hagrid, you are incorrect. Actually, Adam Brody is older. He was 44 when this photo was taken, and John Candy was about 43 when he passed away, so he was probably 42 or 43 when this photo.
Okay, with regards to the late John Candy, may rest in peace, great actor, very funny guy, yeah, good actor. He's obviously very overweight as well. I mean, had he lost the weight, he would look much younger. Yeah, look, being overweight is going to make you look older. I won't disagree with that.
Photo was taken, right? But they look so much differently. Like the guy that's younger looks like he's 20 years older, right? Let's take a look at another example. So this is actor Paul Rudd, which you guys probably know, with an actor called Wilfred Brimley, right? And he was popular back in his day. So guess which one of them is older, right? Guess which one of them is older in this photo specifically? That's what I mean, right? If you guessed it was the guy with the hat, then you're incorrect. Paul Rudd is actually 5 to 7 years older, right, when those photos were taken. But look how much younger he looks. And so the point is that, of course, part of this is genetic, but if you take good care of yourself, you will look younger than your age. So
you've got a point there. I'll give him that, especially with women. A lot of the mature age ladies that I see, they look much younger than what they actually are. See, one in particular, she's from Thailand. She's gorgeous. She's a stunner. And I was shocked when I found out her age. She's actually in her early 50s. She doesn't look a day over 20. And I'm not exaggerating. No wrinkles, no lines, no crow's feet. She stays out of the sun, smart woman. Doesn't smoke or drink or take drugs. She's in good shape. But as a man, yeah, look, I will agree with Alex on that point. Even if you're an older guy, if you take care of yourself, you're in good shape, you look after yourself, you may look a little bit younger than what you actually are. So that I'll agree with him on.
So the question is do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you have a lot of stress in your life? Because that stuff will age you the fuck out. Or do you take good care of yourself? You go to the gym, right? You have a good diet. You take care of your skin. You use products, right? You take care of your hair. You just take care of your overall health in general.
God, these pickup artists. He's trying to pick up a woman in a supermarket or some type of store, but God, these guys are pathetic. Oh, God. He's using his husky as well. Yeah, Alex playing with himself using his husky game, trying to cold approach women in a supermarket. These guys are pathetic. But I will agree with you on the other point. Yeah, you need to look after yourself. Absolutely. And stress will age you. Yep, I totally agree with that.
Right, you're active and all that kind of stuff, that's going to play a huge role in how old you look. And that's going to give you a big advantage is if you're a guy who's in his 40s, but you look like you're in your mid 30s. Also, one important thing I want to mention is that I remember when my dad, was divorced from my mom and he was like about 50 years old and he was, a little bit of a player. Like he was getting laid much more than I would expect him to get laid. And so I asked him like, hey, like, why do you think you're hooking up with all these girls that are in their 30s and shit like that? And he said like, honestly, it comes down to the fact that most guys my age look like shit. I'm the only guy at the pool who has a six-pack, right? And that makes me stand out. And also when I drink vodka, I become confident because, I'm Russian, right? And so we did a Tinder experiment actually at one point where we basically created a profile for my dad. And of course, he wound up getting like 200 likes in 48 hours. And again, that's just because he looks good for his age, and that's what you want to be as well. You want to be looking good for your age because that's going to give you a massive advantage. Mistake number 4, acting old. So the stereotype with older people is they're boring. So you don't want to fit that stereotype. You want to be fun, but it doesn't mean that you should act fun. We all know older guys that act like they're in their 20s and it's ultra cringe. You should actually be a fun, interesting person. In theory, as an older person, you have more financial freedom and thus you have more room to develop a fun, interesting lifestyle. Also, another big stereotype about older guys is they're very stern, right? And obviously that's not that attractive to women. So you don't want to fit that stereotype. Instead, be fun, be funny, joke around, fuck around, maybe even be a little goofy, right?
Just a maxing. Yeah, look, having a good sense of humor, being a fun person to be around are attractive attributes, but if you've got a jester max to try and attract a woman, it's a wrap, it's over.
But break that stereotype. And the point of this is this, right? I'm not saying that older people should pretend to be something they're not, because again, that's going to be very apparent to the girl and it's going to come off very try-hard. Instead, actually...
Yeah, Timmy's guilty of that Rollo Tomasi, or what do we call him in the BP community? Grandma Tomasi or Weirdo Tomasi. If you ever look at him, I think he's younger than me. I think he was born in '69, so that would make him 56, and he dresses like a 20-year-old. He still thinks he's a 20-year-old wannabe rock star. The guy's got to act his age and wake up to himself.
Actually become that person. Be someone who's more lighthearted. Be someone who's funnier, who's more fun, who lives an interesting lifestyle, right? Something that's, has something going for him where he doesn't seem like the only thing he has in his life is doing his taxes and going to bed at 8 p.m. Mistake number 5, and this one is extremely common. It's called leading with your wallet. And a lot of older guys do this because they're insecure about their age. They're insecure about the value they offer. So they think, okay, but I can draw the girl in with financial things like gifts.
That's a mistake a lot of guys make, even younger guys. That's basically what Alex Payne with himself is describing there as a simp. And I don't think you can save a lot of these guys. You really can't. I mean, some of these simps have been burnt in previous marriages, and they still don't learn their lesson. I'll give you a classic example. I have a close friend of mine. He has an uncle who's on his 3rd marriage. First 2 marriages, God, his ex-wives took 70% of his assets. Yeah, let that sink in. 70%. We're talking multi-million-dollar houses, Mercedes-Benz cars, real estate, you name it, and plus all the other money he was spent on these ladies, taking them for overseas holidays, dinners, buying them expensive stuff. I mean, he had, I think he had 2 sons, and he put them in one of the most expensive private schools here in Sydney. So yeah, he blew a lot of money on women. I say to my friend, I said, look, your uncle, he was better off either not getting married or not getting remarried after the first time and just paid for play. It would have worked out cheaper in the end. But a lot of guys make that mistake. They lead with their wallet. And a lot of the passport bros or Western guys are guilty of that as well. They go over to some third world country, they flash the cash. Look, at the end of the day, women, regardless of where they come from in the world or regardless of what part of the world they come from, are women. And what are the 2 things that attract women? Well, obviously, for genuine desire, it's looks and money, looks and money, or both, or a combination of both, preferably both. You get a lot of these old Western guys, these old farts. They go over to Southeast Asia or South America or Europe or wherever, leading with their wallet. Don't do it, guys. If you do stuff like that, all you're doing is you're putting a big target on your back for gold diggers, users, and thieves. I mean, look what's happened to a lot. Look what happens to a lot of guys who go to South America. Unfortunately, there's been some very tragic cases where some Western men have gone to Colombia, they flashed the cash, and they got kidnapped, and in some cases unalived or deleted, if you know what I mean. I'm be careful what I say here because of YouTube, but you know what I'm getting at. So, yeah, don't live with your wallet, guys, and that's a mistake that some older guys do. They see a young, attractive woman, and they try and buy that woman's love. You can't buy a woman's love, just like that old Beatles song. Money can't buy your love. Well, it can't. You cannot buy genuine attraction. Yeah, it can buy you a gold digger or a lady of the night, but it's not going to buy you genuine attraction.
and trips and all that. That's a very bad strategy, because then you essentially become her sugar daddy, where, you know, she might even sleep with you, right, after making you jump through a million hoops, but as soon as a better sugar daddy comes along, she's just going to dump your ass like that, right? So don't be that guy who leads with your wallet. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot use your money to attract girls. It has to be.
But then how are you attracting girls? if you need money to attract women, then you might as well pay for play, because at least with a lady tonight, you know where you stand. She's not attracted to you. There's no emotional connection between you and that particular lady tonight. But you know that's known up front, right? She's there to provide you a service. She's not there to be your wife or your girlfriend, right? She's there for two reasons: to give you short-term, to relieve your sexual frustration, and to give you some short-term comfort. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. That's not the hooker's job. Once again, she's there to give you sexual relief, to relieve your sexual frustration, and to give you some short-term companionship. And that's known up front. Actually, the other day I saw one of my favourite mid-age ladies at night, and she was telling me about a client of hers, a married guy, the usual guy that pays for play. And this guy's falling in love with her. And the hooker's told, she's told this guy, look, I'm not in love with you. You know, I mean, I like you as a client, but I'm not falling in love. But this guy is a simp. And I said to this lady, and I said, this guy has no self-awareness. Doesn't he know that when he pays a lady, when he goes to a brothel, he's not going there to look for his wife or his girlfriend. That's not the hooker's job. And she said, she agreed with me. And I said to this lady, this guy's a simp. He has no self-awareness. Look, I mean, as much as I've been going to ladies, and I've been going to escorts for the last 37 years, since May of 1988. I'm not stupid. I don't go there looking for my wife or future girlfriend. Absolutely not. That's not the hooker's job, right? But it doesn't mean you can't get along with these ladies. I get along famously with the ladies that I see. But I know they're not attracted to me. But that's fair enough. They're just doing a job. But as a man, if you've got to use money to supposedly attract women, and I use the word attract very loosely here, you're better off paying the play. You really are. Yeah. No, don't do it, guys. I mean, even if you do manage to make a lot of money or you win the lottery, good luck. Don't use it as a flex to attract women, because you're putting a big target on your back. But unfortunately, simps, they just never learn their lesson. And you can't, I think a lot of these guys you can't save. Some of them you can save. But with simps, they're their own worst enemy. They really are.
Done an indirect way. You do that by upgrading your lifestyle. So for example, get yourself an apartment, a really nice place right in the center of the city, right, where you're just constantly going to be around.
Yeah, how many people have got that kind of money? I mean, that apartment must be worth millions. And once again, if he as an older guy, or regardless of what your age, but even as an older guy, if you're going to use money as a flex to supposedly attract women, just pay for play. At least you know where you stand with the woman. And it's going to work out cheaper in the end, because even as an older guy, if he ends up marrying a young, attractive woman and they get divorced, he's going to get cleaned out in divorce court. So it actually be cheaper for that older guy to pay for play.
A lot of women. Or for example, join, like Equinox, or like a really nice gym where you're going to have access to hot girls, right? Develop connections with
Yeah, do you think a hot Stacey like that's going to go for some old fart, ugly old fart? And even if he's got money, it's not a genuine relationship. That old guy's just better off paying for play. It'll work out cheaper.
Club promoters and stuff like that, so you have access to good places. So you use the money to upgrade your lifestyle and give you certain accesses, but you don't use that money directly, because again, that's going to make you a sugar daddy, and that's no bueno. All right, hope you guys found this video valuable. If you're enjoying this content.
All right, guys, that concludes my reaction to this video. Sorry about the pausing and stuttering. I think my Steam might be playing up a little bit. Yeah, look, generally speaking, young women find much older men gross and creepy. And that's fair enough. I mean, these guys are old enough to be their dads or granddads. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, the vast majority of women are going to be attracted to men. The vast majority of young women are going to be attracted to men of a similar age to theirs, or maybe a little bit older or younger, give or take a couple of years. But not when it's 20, 30 years and beyond. No, that's just creepy and crazy. So no, this is a ridiculous. This Alex playing with himself. The advice is most of the advice he's giving is absolute rubbish. I will agree with him on looking after yourself. Yep, as a man you should do that. I have no problem with that. And he made a few other good points, but for the most part, most of the advice he gave was just rubbish. It was just PUA cope nonsense. So no, guys, no. Younger women do not find older men attractive unless he's a former Chad or Giga Chad. Yeah, maybe guys like that, like who are in their 50s, they might be able to attract a woman 20 years younger than them. But you're talking a very, very tiny percentage of men. Maybe like an older Brad Pitt or an older Leonardo DiCaprio or George Clooney. Yeah, those guys could probably attract a much younger woman. But once again, those guys are in the top 5%. The most guys, when they usually hit their 40s, 50s, and beyond, I mean, they're pretty much, most 99.99% of young women will not find them attractive. Absolutely not. Anyways, thank you very much for listening to my video, guys. If you'd like to leave your likes, comment, and subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon. You guys have a great day. Bye for now.